Alright. All three of you ready?
Yeah.
Alright. My process of being has ended, my process of becoming started. Contention one is expedition. Korean immigration has been kept a secret in Mexican history. Yearly Age of Renown tells us her story of how the slaves and Henneken plantations that civilians to outside is part of Western history, which has been kept a secret. Hundreds of Koreans and forced slaves and hostages, and they can never imagine the sacrifices that they will be forced to make. Yearly Age of Renown grabbed themselves in Mexico. They'll say, he was hard labor. He tossed the grapes and living soft in the foreign country. Those who refuse to work for me, what's your last name? And they'll say, they're the last name, so we all change the name. Now, these slaves represent the myth of the Maimonides through the Enoch game. Korean immigrants were recognized as the best workers, but excluded. That's changed to that time when they left their homeland for the Israeli country. 133 Korean. Now, one, but you see the beautiful man original country over the whole country every day. The first Korean immigrants nicknamed and playing on captains, Japanese slave trader. The guy came to show us taking quarters work on slave plantation. They sold that slave to captains plantation owner, and that their daily lives wasn't those British, but the diligent over their reputation as best order. So much that they're giving the name and but the myth is a lie. And while in current society, Asian Americans vindicate the American dream. They're the living proof of the power of free market and the absence of racial discrimination. But this is problematic for some Asian American groups because the plight of these South Asian refugees gets lost in their averaging out. South Asians are lumped in the broad category Asian. That's their popular in 2002. The model by Northern British percentage become political center so attached to Asian American players dollar right. The myth was a reassuring story of black side working. The flip side is also appealing to right because Asian Americans are from their strong family and their dedication, hard work, education, hard work. The conservative standard of poverty of Latinos African must be explained by their own values. The misracial love took hold at that point in U.S. history. After immigration reforms that you were selectively allowed large number of educated immigrants into the United States, highly skilled staff from East Asian nurses, doctors, and engineers began pouring in just as racial tension around a fever pitch. Articles from the time even proposed 100 million especially upland minorities. The nation 300,000 Chinese Americans moving ahead of there with no help from anyone else. Newsweek in 1971, Asian Americans outlying the whites. In 1490s, 86, and doubling as a super minority. Asian Americans are the living proof of the power of Iraqi after racial discrimination. A closer look paints another picture of what still dramatically skews the day of those about half the probably Asian Americans, the male, highly educated immigrants, the plight of refugees from Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam, lost into averaging. This imagine the depth of confession of lives inside the United States. Poverty rate, some South Asian Americans, but much higher than even those of non-minority. Yet, despite the clear and actions created by lumping populations together, the federal government still groups South Asian refugees, but the overall category Asian for research and funding programs. We've laid under the shadow of the monument for so long. So people, even though this was needs and contrary to America, could not come in, but this violence is silent. The right covers up this exception to uphold the non-minority myth that's popular in 2002. The majority of refugees in South Asia hail from rural areas. Their psychological start were deeper when they long years squad the refugee camp killing you. Refugees often found themselves trapped in poverty. The riding low cost labor and receiving no health or other benefits. The picture emerges starkly similar to the situation of the important members of non-minority groups. South Asian, Latinos, African Americans have a significant number of single-parent families. According to company household made by a single movement. But for the sake of preserving the non-minority race, the conservative policymakers have largely ignored the needs of South Asian community. But the myth is false. The Koreans are seen as non-minority, but they're also the firm foreigner. This ideology being in the middle causes psychological violence. Came in 2008. Although Korean immigrants were like ethnic was a bad compliment of racist cities more forcefully considered Asian American movement up the social economic ladder. Incites backlash against foreign competition, thus stunting assimilation. Such backlash between the rationality of the monominority and the foreign. The monominority yellow pair form a circular relationship. That's what Asian maritime with the two monominority are the same moments in which have been ostracized most virulently as foreigners. This name is racial discrimination underpinned the 19th and 20th century anti-Asian exclusion. The monominority image collide with repulsed representation side by side. Korean immigrants are dominant with the most racial position. What I call foreign minority culture. U.S. Navy elector in terms of Korean share the discerning parallel with U.S. control of South Korean people unfamiliar, unimportant, weak, someone, and foreign. This encounter racial ideology in both countries, but myth also creates the discourse of the immigrant as the deserving poor, which justifies a decided black underclass as taking 2000. Very few child only knowledge was commonly taken between the black working class and the third world migrant. Absence insists that Asian poverty science be quite distinct from the black cultural poverty. Social science proves numerous studies who organize question presuppose mutual exclusion between blacks and immigrants and the other. The core assumption is just that immigrants and culture and social pride was saved them from underclass status. The confirmed with the relevance of discourse of immigrants is deserving poor. The occasional deserving poor determined like behavior that culture and cultural poverty. Behaviors and foreigners are organized in a way that guarantees survival. The post devolution of decided black underclass. Now we are a confrontation with the minority. We with white supremacy of vector oppression used as police fighter by. This results through impacts. One is the psychological violence against Asian Americans. Two, the oppression of the racial minorities. Two, white supremacy justified through the myth. And three, the resentment between minority groups. That's Shining 93. The history of discrimination. Discrimination for Asians. As a minority, Asian Americans portray hard intelligence and earlier. Belief in the minority lies judged by unique discrimination. Faced by Asian Americans, portrayal parents the general public to ignore the needs. Do oppose the important racial line, including suffer hardship, become a lifestyle spread. This model minority has become largely unquestioned social and social layer. One can see the label as a tool of oppression, which one denies the existence of the present day discrimination of Asian Americans. Two legitimize the oppression of the racial minded. The myth of gain discrimination violence both inside and outside. The Asian American community myth has created unsympathetic sympathetic practice Asian Americans to be outside to be which that's over serving. Taking Asian Americans to the official deny funding for social service program. College administration exclude Asian American students from education opportunity programs. The Japanese American men are compared to those white men, they only did so by requiring education. Income disparity from other Asian American groups are more glaring. Asian American family has more workers, has more Asian American women compelled to work Because of the man to find such low wages, wages may become apparent juvenile application considered the mixed world of dual heart by harder other racial minorities and poor rights were blamed for not being societal. African American leaders, teams, and poor rights told locals and Asians, anyone committing in the country, this blame is justified by the man's trying to prove Asian American weird complicity and pressure of the other racial minorities. This blame quiz for residing against Asian Americans, among African American teams, and poor rights. A lot of my service community scapegoats, Korean Americans in Los Angeles discovered during the riots. Many Korean Americans now view themselves as human shields caught between the white majority and the anger of the black minority. The bottom line image can establish that racial conflict with denying pressure to Asian Americans, thus gave an affirming process of conscientization to expose the myth of the minority that's used as a justification for the position of the black body. Contention to is conscientization. We often compellingly punch this debate without ever considering the possibility the debate can change the world. How to critical thinking and the research skill we develop can find meaning, in fact, methodologies to literary press schools, often within our own sophistication. Our speech I focus on the epistemological growth of current activity and development of a critical consciousness. The debate becomes more than just a game, but a process of life, leading conscientization. OCG by 2007, the fact that young Asian Americans white brain class speak up and found to find a way to ask me the real possibility that young people can become critically conscious and politically active. Their active involvement, especially noteworthy, given that the political and share with the right to ensure the whole social actors are trying to see after these Asian Americans against grain and become politically involved. They realize the positive conversion with a tendency to lose kind of a chance for people believe that there's hope for the future, common pattern factor, choosing to develop a critical consciousness. Our method is conscientization, a process of conscious clarification that allows us to name the world and perceive how we exist in it. Through this dynamic process, we have already begun and will continue to create real change. OCD in 2007, the conscientization being able to weight classification, recognize and understand the impacts of social conditions, force, oppression, how to lives. The process of conscientization involves a conscious clarification of what we're hitting winners. While we move out in the world, we're post-writing the world, that's giving the world war dynamically in the making. Such recognition often is why people work against oppression, begin their active efforts to transform this world. They make the world is after actively changing, and now experimental learning activities like debate are critical part of conscientization. OCD in 2007, Asian Americans have continued to develop Asian American critical consciousness, committed to working social change, experimental learning activities, combining personal active reflection, boost students to Asian American critical consciousness. Our performance is critical. The base elements that contribute to conscientization that must be embraced for effective change. OCD in 2007. Critical elements contribute to conscientization, important to information, decided to look on understand logic shaped by structural forces, important moments that keys to support many difference. School has not talked about the Asian American experience, inspired by experiences of other Asian American struggle to overcome conscientization, committed to Asian American issues with deep and when they transform understanding into action, research to extend knowledge and learn for absolute change. Finally, conscious rising with these great element works in combination. It was not purely intellectual experience, not a social element. Instead, multifaceted, interrelated experience reinforce each other for active seeking to raise their critical conscious Asian American just as sovereign content to lay the content factors necessary for people to see themselves in relation to the world. There is a value and need to range offer a range of experience across the community. The breaking from binding constructs that often pit active programs against real activity, concentrating people exposed to, and combine lesson learned for the right sourcing. Now we should start this interrogation through history. This is the only way to challenge the dominant static notion of history currently surrounding the U.S. We should be the active fighter going to try to ego to that one. Knowing how history started political trouble, these emphasizing how practice real attention to supporting history are reproducing, vindicating solution and solution. Such a big required question how to fix history celebrates the U.S. nation. In the world like the United States falls under most state frequently remains unquestioned. Students are reflection of the past and nostalgia continue to celebrate myths. The student calls examining history through which nations are made and unmade. The understanding how historical nations serve as an ideological outlet offers us a starting point. The inquisitive conserves issue of racism in history means that there is no unified knowledge, only contested subject to multi-often controversial intermingle with parts of history. I will present unified. This presents an opportunity for genuine productive study and learning. I think we're fine. Yeah. Okay.
You're agreed on that one, right?
Yes.
So the 1EC says that conscientization allows you to name the world. What does that mean?
It means we perceive how we exist in the world, how we interact with the world, how we're a part of this world.
So, like, does it mean how, like, structures of oppression affect how you, like, engage in the world, I guess?
Structures of oppression are just one part of this.
Yeah, I understand. But does that include that process?
It does include the process.
Okay. So what...
More than, like, examining structures of oppression, it's more focused on yourself and who
and how, but, like, also how those impact you, right?
Sort of, yeah, that I guess so.
Okay. I guess my question is then, what are those structures?
Well, the 1AC argues one of these structures is the myth of the minority, which has put in place by white supremacists to use to oppress very several groups, as our 1AC outlines.
Gotcha. I think it's Chang evidence that you read says that the model minority has been used as a divide and conquer strategy among racial groups.
Yes.
How does the AF reverse that process?
The Chang evidence explicitly says that one of the main reasons why this model minority stereotype uses to divide and conquer groups is because Asian Americans believe in it and use it and fall back on it. They're like, oh, yeah.
So is it just resolving the model minority?
We resolve the model minority because we, as two Asian Americans, explicitly refuse it, and also the broader social implication.
How does how do Asians disavowing it solve whether other minority groups believe in it, which I feel would still lead to like some
Asians
sort of
I mean, like, it's not a question of solves it too. We're going through a process of conscientization, epistemologically growing in this debate and learning that maybe we shouldn't perpetuate these stereotypes.
Okay. So the 1EC begins with the distinction between being and becoming. What is that?
The conscientization is not a static notion, it is a dynamic one of becoming. It is a process through which we have become better, and that's how we start the ONC. We start this process. That's
Okay.
what the debate's from.
What is the black body?
The black body, we argue that the black body are the individuals who have been labeled as black by society.
So how does that process occur, I guess?
How does that process occur? Well, if you want to look at that process, you have to go back all the way to the Middle Passage, where slaves were brought from Africa to use as labor just because they of their skin color and a racist ideology that they were inferior to us.
Fair enough. So why is the violence of the model minority myth silent, which I think is what you said in one of your cards?
Okay, the practical evidence says that in the status quo, political conservatives hide this model minority myth to uphold the exception, because there's a glaring issue because Southeast Asians defy this model minority myth. They are the poorest of even non-model minorities in the status quo. So the right tries to cover that up and be like, oh, Asians are still this model minority, when there's violence going on because this model minority myth is explicitly false.
The Koreans through Jin evidence describes why were they taken from their homeland?
The Chin evidence describes that Japanese slave traders came and wanted profits to take them to someone else.
Alright, should be on there.
I'm gonna guess you want this.
Yes, thank you.
So everybody knows how to use it.
You get it?
I'm opening it. Misha, it is not on here.
Yeah, I
You
guess.
can email it to me and then I.
Alright, let me just email it out because flash drive doesn't seem to work on my computer today.
Do you mean we're starting an email chain, or do you mean you're just sending it to me?
Yeah, I'm gonna email.
Can we just start email chain?
Yeah, I'm okay with just doing an email
Okay.
chain.
What are your emails?
MQ7000.
Who's 7,000?
Other 9,000.
And then
Game?
GQ1197.
GQ1197.
Any of y'all
else
want it?
No, thank you. Okay.
Because you can put away the really flash drive that you stole from us off. And then she said, you can't trust Misha.
Alright. Yeah, 2 options.
No. Okay.
I got it.
Wait, let me see what you missed the M and MQ.
Oh.
It started grinding there.
This four is on you.
Yeah, it won't.
Sorry about that.
Do it right.
We're trying to fix that problem.
Truth.
Sometimes. 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 Doesn't do it that often.
Alright, I'm good.
Alright, anyone not ready?
First off, reject the one he sees call for a ballot. It is a moment of interest convergence between the affirmative and the judge. This rhetorical aligns with the authorities of the technology and political demand that repeats the strategic attitude of the system and seeks to overturn the guilty solidarity of the one he sees masks the privilege and prevents the act project from directly changing the lives of the people. They vote to warn about Chapter 3. The question is not how the election was making the Democratic opposition against dominant power, but how they can resist academically, which already includes it as rhetorical claims to political change are being confronted deeply rooted reactionary forces to return these forces create new retaliation with ideological promise and remain question what academic election must be confronted down. Their victimization, solidarity with the oppressed by the privilege and accumulating from their opposition is a form of self-authorization where the judge is encouraged to find solidarity with the affirmative other by valorizing the suffering, portraying the one you see. However, their rhetorical strategy amounts to nothing more than a sham renunciation authorized by the same structures of power that produced solidarity in the first place, turning the case in a higher level analysis. Chapter 3. The Orientalists, a special simple Bible, call the Maoist a cultural critic who wants to social order, opposed to one supporting the order, treating the Maoist as a supreme example of the wages our works, which she wants, is always looking the other, resulting in identification with the valorization of that which she is not a Maoist strategy becomes the mean rhetorical renunciation of the material power, enables rhetoric. The subaltern is subsequently reduced to a fungible object, a passive object for the consumption of the day community, affirmative stores the power volunteering only to toss his carcass back into the dust. Chapter 3. The Maoist turns the precisely distinct argument to the outer image or study produce away from the way to make distinction or wrong about the speakers of sense of political righteousness, whether sincere or delusional, these intellectual or the is robbery, nature of the approach of their critical opposition, according to depriving the oppressive, even the vocabulary for this for their academic changes, the second time of their language is no longer distinguishable from those who have had our conscience raised. Next off is our species of counter methodology. The affirmatives attempt at naming the world through critical consciousness raising has misnamed the world. They have excluded from every question of their impact on the figure of the non-human other, which provides the basis for endless cycles of violence. The utilization of critical conscientization is also fundamentally inaccessible to the animal body. Their performance actualizes itself through mass violence against the animal, bound Russell 2K. Prior to finding boundaries of human values, according to a hierarchical economy that establishes human superiority, humans are able to infuse the world with their creative presence fire, represent the other worlds in terms of their lack of such a character to practically accept the given humans inhabit a world with the create and transform, and from which they can separate themselves, change the surface of human freedom, seen to be our primary agenda. Humans are cast as active agents whose essence is transform the world as if somehow accepted. Wonder and reverence were beyond the pale of human animal oppositions taken for granted and acknowledged therein lies. The problem is becoming the normal way of seeing the world and limits possibilities confronting inequities. The human enterprise is not questioned by force reinforcing the problem of understanding these, including understanding of individuals as free entities who will take responsibility for creating themselves when free from societal oppression. How is freedom predicated on the exploitation of the non-human such queries approach against understanding of the self and community and bringing into focus the underlying tension between freedom or the human world. The humans are assumed to be free agents separated from the rest of nature has been used to justify the exploitation of humans assumed to be feel low to nature that is animalistic, irrational, savage, or uncivilized, organic, or organized, most by the belief that language elevates your biological existence to mirror the meaningful social existence. Language becomes a medium for which we set ourselves above this view of language embedded in critical pedagogy of some theological domain of humanity. The possibility of encountering anything more than obvious is nil. The brutalization and racialization of Asian populations, including Lily and Manals and her family, is horrific, but there is an important divergence. They were never served on a plate and eaten. The ethics of eating should be the starting point of impact calculus Publius 13. The seizure between the human and animal establishes a condition of possibility for the emergence of the human. The human is the result of the division of seizure of this world for to work on these divisions to ask in what way the humanity has been separated from the animal, and then is to take the position of gradation or so-called human rights and values. The human master can beat, not can kill the animal and the slave, but he cannot eat the enslaved human. Moses' testimony evidence is how the equality between human and enslaved animal holds up. This indirectly limit point articulated Moses' testimony is by political freedom to torture and kill enslaved forms of life human life within the absolute impunity. The attendant prohibition on the eating the human animal slave is interdiction designates the only division between human and animal available to blacks, and the only corner granted to the slave is to allow them a space in which reflectively encompasses everything but being served up as dinner on the master dinner table. Anthropocentrism is the original and foundational hierarchy that structures all other forms of oppression best in 7. Human exploitation of animals, a key cause of hierarchy, animals of dreaming for self-thought, psychology, moral, and social life in history. The oppression of human over human has deeper than human over animal. Human domination of animals such as it emerged 10,000 years ago. The rise of agricultural society was the first hierarchical domination, lead ground for slavery, warfare, and genocide. Human liberation is impossible if disconnected from animal liberation. The tools humans divided from not confined and slaughter of animals were mobilized against human groups. The human subjugation of animals paved the way for all their system of domination. Human began to establish their dominance over animals to domesticate humans, granted for desire tracing the role of them in various ways. Humans developed numerous technologies such as pad cages, collars, rope chains, and branding iron slaves were made like last time when the Europeans began colonization. The metaphors, bottles, and technologies used to actuate animal slaves were applied to human slave masters, inflicted with black slaves were perfected centuries earlier. First humans actuated slaughter animals, then they treat other people like animals with aggressors and engaged in wordplay, vilifying their victims with terms such as filthy. Animals subjugated peoples once characterized as animals could be hunted out like animals once in a Western or rationality were defined as the essence of human and social normality by first using non-human animals, and the measure of all tyranny was a source of begin between exotic peoples as non or subhuman or counter methodologies to right in the place of the animals that die. This process of forefronting the positionality of the animal is necessary to promote ethical self-reflexivity. The role of the ballot is to move toward a true political space. Caller 13. A true political space is always a spatial conversation for those who are encountering them, and this true political space necessarily includes by virtue of their exclusion and animals. How do we respond to this dynamic ought to be a central question of critical scholarship to be a philosopher story the place of animals that die. This is impermanence improvement over being as perspective for animals which are often characterized as speechless and maybe rather but more so having exposed people appointed to speak on their behalf. This is written in the place of those encountering an unnamed subject, not subject of political speech. The animals that died did not even the 100 million of animals that were living out of our nightmares which actually tested proud and then discarded. We have denied this amount of misunderstood animals here, refuse to use morality, emotion, mourning, cause with less and no limits, simply identifying this denial as a consequence of belief in human superiority is dear to people's hearts and says to themselves also to see not a simple matter of inserting the exclusion of the dominant political order, which unless how the very subversion that exclusion of the order's condition of being now the case. To use decolonization as a metaphor precludes material action and ignores it. We are debating on stolen land means the ACT project perpetuates anti-indigenous racism, talking gang, and 12. We have noticed that even with the language of decolonization has been superficially adopted to educational planning prior ways of further methodology which each center. Some respect to decolonization, which is existing progress from social justice processes of shifting into destruction, no regard for how decolonization wants something different from these other forms of justice. It is not uncommon to hear speakers refer especially to the need for use decolonizing methods or decolonizing, yet we have observed these discussions make no mention of indigenous people. There was little recognition given to the conflicts of second order colonialism in the North American lands where many of these powers take place. This kind of inclusion, form of inclusion of interest in how it domesticates the decolonization and eliminating how it recapitulates dominant theories of social change decolonization, not a metaphor when metaphor and based decolonization and kills the very possibility of decolonization and recenters white and resettles security extent in a sense being separate and pertains a settler future decolonization cannot be grafted on free innocent discourses even if they are critically embracing justice for the easy absorption, adoption, and transposing of decolonization is another form of settler appropriation. Decolonization is not a term for things we do to improve our society. Decolonization doesn't have a synonym. What should I read next?
Could you re-put in? Yeah, go to conscientization.
Conscientization is a crude settler fantasy, tugging yang 12. There is a long history of non-indigenous people of making moves to alleviate the impact of colonization due to the adoption of decolonization discourses, making decolonization a metaphor just one part of that history, and adoption of preexisting tropes get in the way of more meaningful alliances. We think of the enactment of these tropes as innocent, which problematically attempt to reconcile settler guilt and complicity, rescue settler future, which to innocent fantasy adoption, colonial equivocation, conscientization represents settler fantasies of either path to reconciliation. Their resistance calcifies in the stages of Newman fall. Revolutionary aspirations always end up the discourse of class or experiences group. There's revolutionaries always end up in new forms of bounty. The revolutionary must confront the hidden market and implications of its own endeavor, reconfiguring radical content for the well critique of the conceptual structure of the revolution and its imminent authoritarianism. There are historical link between the revolutionists and the master when implying the other desires, only realizing the detail of the other authority is always dependent on the recognition of its authority. Market authority.
So, I understand that you say that the role of the ballot is to move towards a true political space. How does the first off case position meet that role of the ballot?
Our point with the first off case position begs a difference question. It's a sequencing sort of thing. The first off case position presents whether the introduction of suffering into the debate as form of academic capital should occur. The second off case position begs the method by which that should happen.
So if the introduction of suffering causes academic capital commodification, why doesn't the introduction of animal and non-human suffering
There are two arguments. The first is that it is a sequencing question insofar as we are both testing. Yes.
So like putting something above non-human ethics is what you're arguing? So you're sequencing the first off before your alternative that says that
it's not a question of importance. It's like a question of we are testing the affirmative's process of using images of suffering and then which images of suffering. The second argument is that our piece of collared evidence indicates that specifically for animals it is useful to present their victimization because they do not have the capacity to speak in academic spaces, which is different from what our Chow evidence index about how speaking for those that can includes that.
What is the animal?
Yes.
The animal is that which is placed outside the category of human. The category of human is if you want to ask about that,
So,
that's like a longer
We have
answer.
one link, the first one, that we utilize critical consciousness as being inaccessible to animal body. Could you explain how Freire has a hierarchical domination that establishes human?
Okay, that's the first line. Our piece of Bell and Russell evidence says that it makes a couple arguments that are unique in the context of the F. The first is that the process of conscientization sort of assumes a transcendental subject that moves outside of nature, i.e.
Moves outside of nature.
It also assumes the ability for and also we've also made arguments how the absence of the animal in the 1EC is an important starting point because the 1EC should be viewed as a static genealogy.
Cool.
We'll probably make more in the block, but also
So my question is, how do you perform your alternative?
The Collard evidence says that the introduction of the animal as a starting point is a performance because the writing in of the animal is performative and political.
Could you point out the line that says that?
It doesn't use the term performative, but like that. Our point is, it says that in academic spaces, it is uniquely political to write in, and within academic spaces, there is no other method by which we could perform the animal methodology.
Alright, I can answer this. The Chow evidence indicates that it's a type of political demand where the affirmative, where the judge only values the affirmative project in terms of
So why isn't it all a political demand that only values the non-animal project?
I think we answered that.
I already answered that.
convergence species.
Case balance and growth.
Yep. Is anyone not ready?
Alright.
You should know how to balance. Alright.
Okay.
1MC has continued the impacts of the case versus psychological violence of kids. Asian American, we are always sad because Asian American oppression is not seen as legitimate and manifest in things like welfare policy, where Southeast Asia are lumped together with East Asia not given it, or in educational help where Asian Americans are perceived as too smart. Second impact is the myth of the model minority, which presented this between minority groups. It's going to be a first obviously definitely to any of the alternative, because if there's resentment between alternative groups, they cannot coalition together or solve for anything. Also, it means that white conservative point to the Asian Americans, point to them and be like, look at these Asian Americans, look at how hard they're working. Why can't you do the same? And justifies the oppression of all the minorities and even animals on the Asian American, not the Kentucky Yang assumes that we use decolonization as a metaphor where like we should decolonize our mind. The YMCA did not make that claim, but instead that we should decolonize our mind. We use a conscientization to break down the myth of the model minority, which portray to us also conscientization to internal process, not a process of decolonizing land. Also, slaves are not settlers, and slavery are not settlers. Also, settlers are not immigrants. This is talking Yang 12, and child equality of labor. This is slave practice on this land is already average dislocated slave settler making a new home in order to produce Chinese labor. The child slave serves that labor, the slave wealth is labor, so payment of labor is impossible. Settlers, natural born, the indigent, and the child slavery are natural slavery. And immigrants are become completely indigenous. Well, now there is no alternative because this is a case debate, which means that you are still perpetuating settler colonialism and you are just another move to innocent. Also, silence in this case is the best option. Sign the colonizer need to stop listening of roller in the 13 dialogue and preemptive struggle against research and promoting indigenous nationality, comforting colonial institution was degraded for your silence. The silence signal of genuine indigenous autonomy or the opposed to justify the existence of control of the society that might lose with its assets that protects injustice and salary to race and native people will consider to speak up for another right in society. Pretty much when the audience stand arbitrary indigenous people now their stages of argument. First they mark the car too early to make a word. Stages talks about revolution and if we believe that the state is bad, however we want to see that point of starting a revolution, overthrowing the state, but going through a process of constant clarification of who we are epistemologically growing. This assumes that we don't have a constant clarification and that there's an endpoint. Conscientization is infinite many endpoints where we learn and keep on growing about that. Also, this assumes that we become the revolution in the present of the future, which is impossible. We just epistemologically grow down the child argument. Balance our affirmation, our methodology, and the context around it has to have winner and loser, and the winner and loser should be decided the way we frame the debate. That means the laws means the justice does not believe that the methodology is a good idea. Role of valid is a question. Methodology to foster epistemological roles. We can make a debate a space to interrogate power. Voting negative to vote as makes no sense. If I presented good research, then you should affirm that this is just an elaborate way to shut the people up who interrogate power because they won't say vote negative to vote affirmative. My efforts to pass the transboundary hydrocarbons agreement. Permutation say negative to better debate, but vote to vote negative. Interest convergence does not make sense in the context of the affirmative. Conscientization is an internal process. My epistemological group. How does the judge voting for me serve their interest? The twins will probably stand up and say that judge will feel cool for voting for the race team, but that does not modify or affect my epistemological growth. Now, there is no interest convergence in the thesis reproduces black white binary. This driver love an interest convergent thesis. Black and two so much wanting to grapple with them to reveal the thesis theory offer they oversimplify view of the ability to identify a certain constituent interest in the thesis according to insufficient interracial cleavage. The thesis two views in the singular racial situation Americans are increasingly competent so singular black agenda. The critique destroys the agency perpetuates white norm driver to the 11 interest convergent according to almost completed absent agency increasing plasticity. We magical moment this thesis reducing white judges to functionary bending the white establishment capable of white judges who exercise authority to maintain the existing racial hierarchy. Now, they assume the judge owns the ballot. The ballot is broader than any one judge. The science into our conscientization argument very well because we critique the basic style education where teachers deposit information into the student. We blur the lines and say that teachers can learn from the students and vice versa. Now the judge is not a teacher who gives approval to us as debate. The whole concept of critical pedagogy is that it comes from the interaction between the student and the teacher. Just because they already dealing with equivalent keeping it labeled as a judge doesn't mean that they are not equal parts of this debate community. It does not mean that they control our pedagogy. We are all part of this community, and Centennial KK has a new idea of fostering that critical pedagogy and epistemological growth. If the judge agrees, they can cite their ballot to concur. They assume that the ballot is controlled, which turns all their offense. Now, there is no impact to this because conscientization would be able to resolve. Go on to anthropocentrism. First, we make a cross-sex mistake when we ask what is a human. Craigslist answer saying that a human animal is anything not human. This is the same type of binary that allows humans to be separated from nature, which their own personal and card say. Here is the line. So to these human/nature dichotomy, pondered with rest, anthropocentrism increases. That means that this view of the animal as something as separate from humans allows the humans to see as separate and dominated in the first place. Now, anti-anthropocentrism is to foster a problematic race-neutral mentality. This can be to a white food actor on example privilege, white racial allegiance, imply the allegiance conflict, not only person color value, but professional relationship to the food system, one tendency, universalism, the white value, the reinscribe racial differences, prohibiting discourse on race, animal right activists, coders, and when also to a radically left and progressive way, capable of participating in over racist discourse, the angles, the physical, national race, and reinforcement, to despite good intention, and the constant shaping, the codification, environmental activism, not alternative race, and fails that coalition building white ideology, excludes blacks from the movement, is a market and basal 2005 racism, and begins to cancel potentiality for time many immigrants, European workers, legends, past and treated the class, constituting the fact that no show white is a word, report language, and each has to share profit and slavery, what form of human being, what they have for animal, and no play, enslaved human education, what helping and mean cultivating moral value among white children, white men, build segregated organization, overcome racism, cultivating moral value, not sharing power, and about power, which suffering animal, invisible suffering, the people of color, indigenous people, the truth, artistic, human-centered, not called the destruction, minority cultures or people, this is real, no implication for ethnicity, gender, sex, and sexual identity follows from the human center, that there will be a battle of color, which is society, battles imply no particular tradition, but human institution other than physical, cognitive, ethnic, possibility for the species, and nothing necessarily false in human institutional government, however, all the chopping they may be not permutation, different strategies for different people do both. We can go through a process of conscientization, and they can take the perspective of an animal. That alternative field conscientization is a prerequisite per certain part in Mori 95B for organization to adopt an egocentric paradigm. Researchers need a better application for historically dimensional anthropocentrism in modern thought. The conscientization of our historical methods in anthropocentrism is necessary for theorists to differentiate between anthropocentrism and egocentrism. Also, they do not perform the alternative. They are not able to resolve any of their claims. How are they able to bring in the animals into the debate? Also, if it's about the ethics of eating, they are not able to resolve for that because I'm sure there are so many just because they're vegetarian doesn't mean that they've resolved the impact. Now, this understanding of Fourier allows humans to believe individuals are separate from the world. This is all an apple separate. Fourier is out of context created a substantial misreading and misapplication of Fourier's idea. I think was disastrous. It's also authors on rethinking Fourier, doing rest for Fourier idea, adopted a PPO faction, not pretty heavy Fourier's dialectical conception, human relation was in relation to the other end of the world. They read Fourier through a lens of Western individual rationalism, allowing them to interpret Fourier as saying that humans are individually separated from the world. Now, the Chow argument about suffering commodification is a dissent and a contradiction with the alternative because you cannot bring the animal into debate and commodify their suffering. Argument liability negative needs to be liable for the representation. White contradiction to the state white supremacy. Now, current treating 95 whether or not the position on one self said white contradiction and important element in construction white is not a contradiction. White is able to move over on the challenge guard. Part of the ability to be one is universal to be social identity different contradiction. Dynamic part of the recreate. White is now there's no distinction between the human and the world. This is all into 07 fear to stuff that constant transformation is that individual social and that there's no dichotomy but to human and the world rather than for Fourier is ongoing dialectical reflection relationship between individual and the world. Social consciousness that recognize that there's no I think and only a we think. Now the alternative fields there are alternative their own Russell and Russell Carter citing a guy named Bauer who has fundamentally misunderstood Fourier's argument. That's well located in 11 Bauer still remain insufficient to change the historical concept. We must be moving on. However, this cannot be achieved with rejection. Fourier was an ecological crisis, a crisis of humanism, and thus the idea to embrace a deep ecological position to that human consciousness.
Can we get those cards?
Yeah, we should have 3 cards before process.
2 cards.
I didn't have the. Did you read a card for the condo argument?
Yeah, it's on the speech stuff.
I don't think it's
Called
there.
Nakayama 395. I'm 100% sure it's there.
How do you spell that?
NAKA.
I'll send all of them.
Yeah, I don't have. We don't have that one.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely
sure.
not in here.
I sent
Send it
them all.
then.
Did you send that one too?
Yeah, I sent them all.
Okay.
Did you send Naka inclusive?
Yeah.
I just wait for it. Good.
Done.
Sir, one sir. Alright, I'm good.
Alright, so let's start with the type of evidence you read on cases. Card tries to carve out a distinction between slaves and settlers. It says that slavery was a prerequisite, black slavery was a prerequisite. I guess 2 questions. First, how does the case access that?
How does the case access that? The second part of the Tuck-and-Yank evidence, which you neglected, said that sellers are not immigrants and immigrants are not sellers. These immigrants who came over behold the indigenous law. Settlers are who become the law when they come to a new land. The Asian Americans who came here as immigrants were not settlers, they just assimilated into the settler society. That's the antithesis of the 1AC, which says that we should not assimilate into these norms.
Okay, I'm confused about why that refutes your argument about the decolonization as a metaphor being.
Well, Tuck and Yang's, as I believe it, says that you cannot use decolonization as a metaphor. You cannot say that we should decolonize our education. We should not decolonize we should decolonize our mind, because that papers over what decolonization actually means.
Fair enough.
The
The
1AC
second
did not make a
argument-
claim of decolonization.
Alright, the second question I have is that this card refers to chattel slavery and black slavery. I'm confused why this doesn't link you to your critique of the black-white binary.
Critique of the black-white, wait, we can't talk about black people?
Well, no,
That's
you're-
not what the black-white
It's not
binary is
your-
talking
not
about.
responsible for it.
Also,
It's just a-
Okay.
Also, like the Henneken slaves in Mexico, like were they settlers?
Alright, fair enough. Chow, so the first argument you made about the ballot being critical, what happens after the judge votes for you?
The judge concurs with the methodology is a good idea. Like they vote for the affirmative because of
What
the
is the
radio
result
crucible.
of that?
What does that resolve? It just means that that Centennial KK has presented a methodology and that the judges think that it's a good methodology.
How does that actualize any political change?
Actualize political change. I think you missed the boat of the affirmative. The affirmative was about our process of epistemic growth, our learning, and what we change. Like if you
Why
want
do
to
you
see
need
real
the
change,
judge's
just look at
validation
the
in order to continue?
It's not a judge's validation, but the judge's concurrence that this methodology is a good idea. If you look at, if you want an example of change, like me and Michael, we ran the transbounded hydrocarbon agreement before we were like fascist framework debaters. However, we learned that maybe we should be more open, that we should be more inclusive, that we should take perspectives into different account. The fact that we as debaters have been changing and prove that the process of conscientization has been changing us.
Okay, your driver evidence, I'm not really sure why, or what piece of evidence in the 1NC ratifies the black-white binary?
It's the interest convergence. The interest convergence assumes that there's a monolithic white person who is only gonna help the minority population if their interest converges. You forgot that there are different, infinitely many interests in that. There's not just like a minority and an oppressor.
Okay, I'm still confused about why that ratifies the black-white binary specifically.
It says that,
your evidence is in the
it
context of
assumes
where
a
there's not
centralized
made arguments
black
about
and
black.
minority interest and a white supremacist interest.
Alright, fair enough.
We have, I think it's 8 minutes, right? Yeah.
What do you say or something?
Yeah.
Gonna be a minute.
3 for 7.
Hold on. What is it?
3 for 7.
3, 4, 7?
Yeah. 599. 5929. You're welcome.
Did you read green for a minute?
Green.
Okay.
I mean, it makes sense because they exactly fix food.
Yeah, you're
Yeah, that's what that is. It's very good.
Like my keyboard coming.
You have to wash it off.
Yes. I clean it fairly often. No. I was an LD land all weekend.
Oh, fun. What's the old days out there?
209.
Actually, it's like developing countries should prioritize growth over environmental protection. Or environmental protection over growth, I don't really.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
It's been quite a while.
It's very policy.
I haven't judged a lot.
Yeah, but there's also like, you can kind of go both ways. Yeah. So like,
Yeah, I actually kind of like all these topics often.
this one I think is pretty solid. Which the LD
Yeah.
they're all.
LD is like not
Last year.
real philosophy debate, and it's not real.
I think it was Ben.
A lot of other things.
Ben was the
There's
best.
just like there's just like a shit ton of like random bad theory yards and the whole thing's kind of.
So if I reply all, will it send to you?
The terror, there were a couple terrorism topics last year that I thought were awesome. I would have loved to have been, half on or head, but sometimes the topics are a little lopsided in terms of like what's going on.
We're just kind of like not a really good lit base.
Yeah. Puck is really characteristic of that, and it's just like lopsided. It's like, I don't think this is really fair.
You gotta win the flip and then make the right side and pick your side.
And for in case.
Yeah, pick your side. You get it.
I mean, to be fair, this is the first time that I haven't taken the balance.
I'm gonna assume that it would be not fair.
Yeah, that's fair. Where's the stab there? Here. Can you make it smaller? Awesome.
Sweet.
I guess flows sort of go here. Yeah, looks like that works.
Probably pay attention to the timer. Whoops. My program's annoying. It turns my volume back on from being muted when it gets low on time. So if I forget about it, I'll just randomly.
That's really funny.
Whatever you're ready to do.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm proud of that shit.
I need the order again.
And third case.
Quickly, you're not paying attention.
No, I really don't. Just, you know.
There is an overview of sorts, whatever that means. In terms of life.
What?
I think you should know. What
Yeah,
that
okay.
means.
There is an overview. Are you all filling out computers?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Keep it. Then yeah, cells.
I felt it was fairly obvious, but fair enough.
Can't see behind your computer. I like started asking the question as I was looking up. I'm sorry.
You came out way behind in this interaction. Alright.
Shut up.
Everybody has cells and everyone's all set. The infinite carcasses of the non-human are stacked vertically before the very walls of all levels of civil society. The anthropocentric process a system of institutionalized social death. Upon all bodies demarcated from the structure of humanity, there is a categorical difference between our impacts, and it is only the ethics of eating, the possibility of consumption that enables the devaluation to the point of social objecthood. The Homo sapien can always retain some level of agency, but the animal is doomed to mere fresh for consumption there. Because of the positionality, the animal can never ascend the ladder of social organization, racial, and other forms of interhuman relations are contingent. However, the only body that has never received the slightest touch of progressivism is the animal body. That means its suffering will continue until the very end of time. The question of impact capitalism is absolute. Only the human dies, but the animal merely perishes to unmarked graves. This gratuitous violence enacted upon the animal body functions as a form of ontological decategorization that transmutes it into the non-body. Publius 13. The object thing becomes a cartoon moment to capture, but not see the cost nature of the elements of every ontological, metaphysical, and legal fifth category of human injury. Marks the death of the subject and birth of the object. The mere carcass transmutes the corpus not only in a body conversion act factors that cannot be relation power less than something create the point. The term carcass to show that every residual human is the point of attempt of agency carcass will not be liberally redeemed for those who know justly say the useless sufferings, intrinsic convenience by political seizure. The human animal divine registers kill the many animal carcasses, not nearly that comparison metaphysics of anthropocentric. The animal cannot die, can only come to an end. Only the human dies. What remains is the carcass, not worthy of mourning. Production of the carcass engendered by the two intersecting modalities, violence, instrumental, gratuitous, instrumental violence is enabled by somatechnical instrumentality, gratuitous violence by necropolitical matrix, the tainous interactors, an example of an ensemble power relation that cannot be lived through. Their first argument is that the binary allows for the reproduction of animals. They've not first is that our evidence that they point to this as the transcendence of nature allows for all of our difference, which is distinction from the saying that there is a human subject. Our argument is does not call into question the problematization of the human as a thing. We cannot ignore its existence as a category. However, they did not ask for the definition of a human, they just asked for the definition of the animal, which means that you should not give them any argument. I'm going to explain the distinction right here. The human has a couple of different levels, layers. The first is the biological layer, i.e. the Homo sapien does exist as a category, and there are certain populations that do not access the same levels of interaction that the human has, which means that their method is inaccessible, which we explain more in the link page. However, the second, it is also metaphysical. People can be devalued to the level of the animal, which is the arguments I'm going to make more in the turns case debate, which means that this is not linked to their arguments. Now, the JMB evidence that they read says they causes race neutrality. This is about white animal, and this is about white animal activists. The alternative is not a performance of that. The alternative will be explained in a second. However, we recognize that, just as we don't recognize privilege, we do recognize our privilege as white male subjects. However, they have not recognized the more important. They have not recognized the privilege of them as human subjects, which is something that is fundamentally problematic. Now, they say the alternative is racist. Versus this is just an ad hom. They do not. This evidence is not about the alternative. It just says that white logic is racist. This is. I think they require winning a link to get access to this argument. And I'm going to explain the alternative. Our counter methodologies to break in place of the animal that dies. That means we must interrogate, deconstruct the absence of the animal from the space. If we win a link argument, this means to reject the affirmative process of writing in place of the animal using more self-reflective ethics that does not include the non-human. Now, our role of the body is to move towards a political space. Collar evidence says we must interrogate the lack within academic structures. This captures their offense better because they can describe the process of exclusion of minority population and the Korean population from politics and debate. However, their role about includes the possibility of the animal. They can now this also solves their interlink to the coalition's arm because it interrelates people from one form of oppression, which is under one form of oppression, which is what their oath to G-Man says in the interlink. If I win the impact of it now, they say there's no impact. I'm going to do a ton of analysis here because the evidence just makes an assertion there. Categories of subhumanity makes possible all oppression of Homo sapien bodies is always made possible from the distancing from the 0 points of the animal body. This means we turn the impact because they can turn ours. The conditions of possibility for racism and other forms of discrimination are only possible by the connection to the human body. For instance, indigenous groups were deemed to be closer to nature and thus irrational in theory.
Ernest Bell and Russell, it was historically that technologies and anthropocentrism have been used to justify mass violence against Asian populations. First, their pejorative nickname given to the Korean to Korean immigrants that they Latin America that they talked about in the one scene with the Hiki. Their gene evidence says that this was named after a cactus, quote, used for making rope and twine. Our best evidence says that technology such as ropes and chains were developed and perfected by the domestication of animals. Second, the reason why the labor of Lily de la Banal's family was because of necessity for farming, producing crops, and attempt at managing the wild and asserting mastery through large-scale farming. Not only did this provide the conditions of possibility for the suffering of her family and others like them, but it also ensured that those practices continued. They think back to 1AC Crossings, where I asked him why these slavery occurs, because of the economic consequences, as a result, the economic benefits as a result of farming, which is something that we call into question. Now, third, the process of transportation of Korean slaves described in their Shin evidence was made possible only by the anthropocentric logic of industrial society that taught people how to transport bodies. The technologies of slavery, such as chains, collars, and branding irons, were developed through the anthropocentric. The very concept of chattel slavery comes from the Greek word for cattle. It's what they practiced the death making upon the bovine category before we did the human category. Now, fourth, there are how why Korean subjects perpetually foreign bears the grounding in the Korean War. However, even this relies on the conception of anthropocentrism. That's one soldier, Uzalian, was quoted saying it is easier to think of them not quite as humans, something beneath us. I can give you the source for that if you want it. Now they say permutation, different strategies. If it is different strategies for different people, then the performance of the 1 and C should not be a justification for voting affirmative. It's just as easily a justification for voting negative. If we win any of our link armies now, they do not get a permutation because do not have a plan text. They've chosen the 1 C political performance, and we should be able to isolate links off of it. Otherwise, it is impossible to be negative. Traditional models of cost-benefit analysis are based off opportunity cost, but that is impossible in this debate. Utilizing these models also upholds hegemonic models debate, which means the permutation should be a reason to reject the team. The 1 C is referring to the genealogical exposition of the operation that they isolate. They should be responsible for the genealogy they presented. We have performed the method of our counter methodology. The 1 C is a speech act that they simply did not perform. Our collar evidence says the process of writing the animals uniquely political and academic space. This is something they have not done. Still linked or severance. Voting should make small promoting the negative ground arm responsibility. Any link arms they win is independent dissent of permutation as well as the affirmative methodology. Conscientization is a method deployed to an end. If we win that end is anthropocentric, then the form of method is irrelevant. I will do the link right here. First, the 1 C is a process of naming, but they have named the wrong system. If we win the turn case based, we win anthropocentric was the first and foundational hierarchy. This means two important things. First is that the genealogy of the 1 C is failed to accurately trace the impacts that they've isolated, which means that they should lose on based on their counter methodology as a better political method. Second, it means that the affirmative is rearranging the deck chairs. The system of anthropocentric will manifest themselves in other forms of domination because the aftermath will just calcify. Second, the link arms that the absence view from nowhere. They cannot explain the process that gave rise to depression if they isolate the inability proves their ontology is incapable of describing what their knowledge production came from. This internal link terms all other arguments that disembodiment also proves that their counter methodology is better method because we have a view from the position of the inoculant other. If we win this arm, they first perform conscientization. The third link of transcendence, the process of unconscious raising even rhetorically assumes a transcension of the human subject above an object that has been raised. We believe that the 0 point that is below their politics is always the animal. This is the same type of critical pedagogy escape from nature that Bell and Russell Evans index. The attempt to move away from nature always is effacement of all things that are seen close to nature. This is a nativism, because the kind of politics that's historically been used to justify indigenous slaughter. That was the overview. Fourth is the decolonization of the subject. The process of decolonization assumes a rational subject they can usually cleanse themselves from things like the monominority. This understanding is impossible because it also acts as a virulence because the system's colonial power will simply manifest themselves in more mundane ways because it is completely cleanse the subject impossible. That makes subjects unaware of the effects of colonialism, means that they will be less self-reflexive in it and more likely to cause oppression. It also means that the animal cannot access this because they are always deemed to be irrational subject. Fifth is the speaking subject. The presentation of the 1 C through speech is fundamentally inacceptable to anybody which has no voice. This also acts as an ableism of racism because populations have deaf or speak differently cannot engage in the methodology of the 1 C. We will preempt their argument that we spoke for as well because our method of writing the animal is not isolated to only speak. We have chosen to do in the context of the way the 1 C is performed. Now, 6 is being versus becoming. The process of becoming assumes a fluidity of identity that is not accessible for the animal because its position in the world can only be described as flesh and society. This turns their anti-blackness arms because they are right to blackness as part of the ontological structure. Sadness thinks they perform the method that is inaccessible. 7, they describe the myth of being silent. However, this only true silence is on the part of the animal body because it physically has no voice. That 1 C proves that the myth is not wholly silent, means that their presence is deeply problematic. Now, I'm going to quickly answer their arguments. They group all their arguments about Frere. This is not a point. We are not a link to Frere, but rather, I'm going to take forever about this. Okay. Alright, that was 34 stuff.
Yeah, it was like 135, I think.
You have 135. Okay. Cool. Let's go through these links first. We have named the wrong system, so link of omission.
We think that the omission is promission.
Okay.
That's important.
Next
Like,
link.
it's the one you should
The
do now
app
is
is
the genealogy.
Let's just go down. The app is a view from nowhere. Explain how you bring the voices of animals into this debate.
The process, our caller Evan says that because the animal cannot engage in academic spaces, the process of writing for the animal
Wait, why
is
can't animals engage in political spaces?
because they have no voice. That is the point.
But you assume they don't have a voice? Like, why?
It is.
So why are you taking this paternalistic relation, saying that?
That is not a
we should
paternalistic
protect
relation because
animals?
we've not assigned a value to that. Our point is that
Really, that's the alternative to deconstruct notion of humanity. Like, why isn't that a self-narcissistic alternative in itself that we humans have the privilege?
we don't have to
deconstruct
deconstruct
ourselves?
the biological category of the human. Our point is that we need to deconstruct the hierarchies of oppression that means to.
All right, you say that it's transcendence. Why isn't deconstructing our own notions of humanity also a form of transcendence?
Because it doesn't transcend from the structure. Because it's transcendence in this particular way. Our point is that the concept of consciousness raising assumes a 0 point by which the consciousness is
so we
raised.
shouldn't raise our consciousness about how animals have been oppressed.
We believe that that process is inaccessible to the animal body.
Okay, then how is the process of deconstructing them from our human minds in this debate about accessible to animals?
What do you mean?
How is the alternative accessible to
Because
animals? You said that they cannot-
because it is the presencing of the non-human in this
Greg, you
space.
said it yourself that animals cannot participate in like current politics. How is the alternative accessible
Because
to them?
our caller says the only method by which they can be brought into the equation is the alternative.
All right. Actually, yeah. After alternative is done, how are animals brought into the equation?
Through that method. Like that's how academia should engage in animal bodies. That's
Like
all.
animal bodies can now make demands on academia.
No. Our point is that writing in place of the animal is the use is
What do you write?
What do you mean?
What should we do? What do you write?
the performance of the 1AC was a counter methodology against speciesism.
All right. You say speech is a link. I think you use words in your 2 and C.
Yeah. I preempted that argument. Our point is that our performance is not rather writing the animal does not have to be exclusively textual, but we have chosen to do that as a reaction against the authority.
All right. So animals, like the shark eats a fish, they eat other animals. What's the difference about a human eating an animal?
Because the process by which the human assumes that it can eat the animal
Well, the
is
shark
that-
assumes he can eat the fish.
Yes, but that is a contingent relationship rather based on one that is like fundamentally ontological.
Ontological. Like the
Yeah.
humans need to eat and survive. Sharks need to eat and survive. What's the difference?
Because we should not use that as a method.
Obviously.
You seriously just poked me on Facebook.
What was it last?
You seriously just checked your Facebook?
I didn't even know that was a thing you could still do.
Alright,
Yeah.
okay.
Everyone stop voting.
What was the last
No. People still poke wars apparently. You don't hear people arguing about that in
Was it
debate.
all
I
false?
think it was about
Colin Rourke and West have had a poke war that's been going on for like several years, it sounds like.
Last person said all day.
I kind of assume that anybody who's in a poke war is just like, yeah, it's like the like frozen conflict of poke wars. The deep embedded ethnic conflict of poke wars.
I think that you can just poke proxy wars, or poke other people and then demand that they poke people for them to get them to stop poking them. So it's just like a collective assault of poke notifications. Because there's nothing worse than a poke notification now, because it's like, this isn't a thing. Why do I have a
Like, what?
notification?
Yeah, like,
You get so disappointed.
it showed up with a little like finger around like that.
Was this Wilkins card?
Yeah, that was Wilkins.
So sketchy.
It's good to be suggested pokes. Like, I feel like I poked her if you fucking just.
You do not have many suggested pokes. I have a lot.
Probably because
It wants you to engage in like all sorts of illicit. Ooh, it's decreased actually. But normally I'll have like 5.
I'm good.
I wonder how it's 7 is that too.
We have 642.
640.
Alright,
42.
I'll just email that.
I think they took a little more credit.
Dollar conversion.
I assume they're on top of it, is just what I'm going with at this point.
Who took prep there?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes more sense.
I'm on top of it.
Oh, shit.
Okay.
I knew 642 would be an excessive amount of prep now for the Fuck this shit. Hold on, I need to change.
You get a standing desk yet or what? Oh, yeah,
It's
that chair's
broken,
actually
yeah.
broken.
Yeah.
I see.
Get your shit together, Robert. No coffee, broken chairs.
Alright, what's your
So
order?
four. Again, a four.
So it's gonna be the bottom of Anthro.
Cool.
Wait, we're starting with condo.
You're starting with the prayer, yeah, the prayer thingy, then combo.
Okay, so yeah, bottom of species.
The
Now.
So bottom of species and then condo at the bottom of the,
Yeah,
Chow.
and then the chow gate.
Or no, case between.
so then back up to the top of the chapter.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, case between, I guess.
So,
We get the case of it.
so,
Species, case, condo, top of the K. Get it?
Yes.
Got it, good.
Okay.
Don't land down the wall.
Oh, now I'm on top of it, Keegan.
You're just like a sovereign now.
Alright.
one second.
I'm in that mood, so I can go lord of the building.
You missed the power.
Can you hand me that stuff?
Alright, whenever you're good.
Alright. Their defense of Freire to apply. We are not saying that Freire's methodology as a whole is bad, but rather Bell and Russell evidence from the one he says that his reliance on critical.
No, it says that they are specific.
Yeah, says that their specific reliance on critical pedagogy is a method by which to create human agency in the context of conscientization is bad. Now, their next piece of evidence says that we need to understand history. We obviously do that because the 2NC overview definitely explains the genealogy of how anthropocentrism has been used to oppress other modern minorities groups throughout history. Now, their Wilkins evidence is about some guy named Bowers, which is obviously not us. This also doesn't assume our performance of the alternative. The process, our evidence indicates that the process of speaking about the animal academic spaces is a performance which can be liberatory. Now the conditionality made two conditional options are key to test whether suffering
That's
or
wrong. Let me find this. Here it is.
one conditional option is key to test whether suffering representation are good and which suffering representation are good. This is a sequencing question, not a contradiction argument. Testing it from the perspective of both form and content. Gut check. The balance argument does not have an alternative. They are also conditional because they can take positions and choose which 2AC arguments to go for. It's also not a contradiction because animals cannot speak chows about things that can't speak, which means that there's no contradiction. Now, insulating them from potential options obviates the potential for comparative analysis, which is the internal link to better revolutionary policies. Now, tactical decision-making skills require the 2AC to consider argument interaction, which link turns any argument about skew. Now, argumentative testing is the starting point for innovative and educational debate practices, which link turns are research arguments is only possible with a buffer zone. Now, we narrow the pipeline of information to present overload in the real world. Now, this also facilitates advocacy responsibly. Better affirmative construction requires interaction with as many ideologies as possible. Error negative, the act parametricizes the resolution, which means they will always be ahead. Now, there is some substantial defense. Hughes and Apple is worse in their model. Multiple topicality values, and this has lead to stale debate. Prefer reasonability. You can only vote affirmative if we make it impossible to debate them. Now, the affirmation of multiple perspectives is key to radical performative pedagogy. Period. All 13. Device standards reimagining of traditional text to disrupt text sensors by facilities surrounding to represent across disciplines and modalities through multivarious interpretation of practice and trust and disrupting comfortable notion of performance, interpretation, meaning making dividing practices versus linear and narrative cognition and thematic clarity. This work has the capacity to introduce diverse, relevant, and multiple engagement through performance creation. Yeah, go to case.
Actually, you can go to chow.
Okay, chow, I guess.
Framing issue argument function at the level of battle, which means that even if you agree with the substance of the one issue, you should still vote negative because we haven't tackled the only way to actualize their project. This is the lens through which you should view our offense. Arguments about why their one issue is true or good do not come first because there's no explanation of why that creates change. Now, their first argument is that ballots are key to a win or loss. This is not a justification for voting affirmative because you can change yourself and engage in a process of education without the judge's validation to speak for you. Now, their next argument, voting negative solves because you can still research and gain critical education absent the ballot. Now, their ballot key arguments result in guilt persuasion. The ballot functions as an effective method for purging guilt complicity, which absolves the judge of personal responsibility for violence, as well as the necessity to engage in real-world activism. The idea that they have somehow changed something simply by rereading conscientization in this debate is asinine. Now the second impact is liberals know that they speak with extreme privilege by being in a debate space where we have the capacity to speak truth or power. Scratch that down. The next argument is that voting negative, you can vote after you vote negative still links because voting affirmative gives validation and credence to the affirmative project, which links to our commodification impact. So I'll do that analysis here. The 1AC becomes addicted to the reduction of the Asian other to a form of academic capital. They trade the oppression of the other merely for a battle, which is a profoundly unethical intellectual stance. They are actively profiting off of the suffering of the other through the accumulation of mere wins. This act is all their case in match because the conditioning that the Asian Americans value on competitive success perpetuates the myth of the model minority. That also answers their next argument of how you don't get co-opted. Another black-white binary argument. This argument, their evidence is only in the context of interest conversion when utilized against anti-blackness, which is not us. This is obviously false, and this is now the permutation still leads to all of our commodification arguments, there's also nothing to per because there's no alternative. Our alternative is just to vote neg because we reject the ballot. Now, their next argument about white norms, we don't decrease agency, rather you do because you sacrifice the independence of the minority on the altar of the ballot. The warrant is also that there's no white agency under the world of the alternative argument is an impact from that. That was the point about with the commodification argument there. No link argument is not responsive because it doesn't assume the way that the ballot functions in a validation of your competitive process. This is also disproven by the valid key arguments, which I answer at the top of the 2AC. Now, their conscientization solve argument, we short circuit this because of the terms case arguments that we're meeting above.
642.
Fusion power reading. Scared me. No idea what you're talking about.
I know. I didn't really care, but I just wanted to say things.
I did stare at you and demand you say something with my eyes. I'm gonna speak here, or am I just gonna keep looking?
Just keep looking at me. Okay, so the birthday thing makes sense. It's like, everybody's birthday was 2 days ago. What?
You forgot to post on the wall. It's telling you that.
Oh,
It's pretty rude.
It's like, dude, posting their wall was wrong with you, man.
I've never gotten one of those, but I don't post many birthday notifications to people.
I never did, but I never had anybody's wall. That's what I'm saying.
Oh. Yeah, Facebook thinks you're being kind of a dick. Chill that out.
It's just like,
I'm gonna start sending you messages. Are you a real friend with this person? Because it doesn't seem like it based off your Facebook activity.
Alright. Case, chow, anthro, what does always be on top?
Case, chow, anchor?
where are we starting on chow?
What do you mean, where are we starting at?
Are you starting a condo first?
I think condition was an answer.
Yeah. But
That's where I have it.
no, yeah, condition I was on Anthro.
Oh, no, that's what it was. Doesn't matter. Fine.
I'm just gonna put conditionality on the page.
Yeah,
That's
good.
easier.
Yeah, I like that. Let's do that.
So when they just say it, I'm just gonna go there. Doesn't matter when or where.
Alright, so we got it on a new page, so just tell us. There you go.
On that game too. On what game? New picture.
Alright, so we're
Pay attention.
You can leave or you can leave conditionality where you have it flowed, but
Just
for
say-
now you can just say conditionality and we will go there.
Cool.
Doesn't matter what page it's on.
I'm gonna start it on a new flow.
New flow,
Where-
yes.
Great, we're on that thing. Alright, let's do it.
Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Big mistake dropping the entire case. You have dropped the psychological violence against Asian Americans because the current side did all this good. They don't get welfare benefits, educational benefits, the myth of the modeling causes resentment between minority groups was the reason why you cannot turn the case or solve any sort of impact because this myth will still exist if you don't do the affirmative. Our individual performance solves because we Asian Americans are denying themselves about it. Another framing for all the turns case arguments is if animals are always subjugated, why are Asian Americans portrayed as a super minority above all society? That's the reason why they cannot explain the myth of the minority to the anthropocentrism in this debate. Also, they're talking yank cards specifically as a contradiction with the anthropocentrist argument because how do animals go through the process of decolonization? This gives us the link to the performed contradiction argument on the condition later. Go to the child critique, let's get real. The judge's card this case does not have alternative, which is the reason why voting negative means that you are explicitly rejecting white seat, not just a call for the ballot. It's not a pick on the ballot because you do not have an explicit alternative on this. If it is, that means that the permutation should solve because it's just a floating page. The ballot is critical. First of all, the ballot is the only thing that the ballot does say our method is good. We're not getting commodified because you have to have the consultations and internal process. You're not manuals just trying to use us. Now the argument that I'm going to go for hard is the fact that the judge is a part of the debate committee. The judge is educated for his consultation model and assumes that it goes two ways. That you learn from us and we learn from you. That's why judges are debaters in the status quo. That's why judges forming RFD. That's why they go into the process, which is the reason why it's not more agency link. A ballot is the only way. The ballot of first time method is the reason why. And I'll go to this implementation overview. The legal impact of the debate through the lens of alternative solvency. The ethical even cannot explain why different species eat other species. That's not in the status quo. Humans eat these sharks and sharks eat other types of fish in the status quo. The ethics between species cannot explain also the race. The ethics of species cannot also explain racism because you do not see a brown squirrel oppressing a black squirrel. That only goes on but between human society, which is the reason why racism is a fundamental line for viewing this type of debate in the status quo. The piece of the efficacy should not be prioritized because of terms getting started. It's not over the line by part of the cross-section mistake. You still link it because you make a dichotomy between humans and animals in the status quo because when you say that an animal is anything that is non-human, you're trying to assert this position to the human and trying to assert it, which is the reason why you still link the already dichotomy links. Not the alternative fails today. You are a form of white activism because the thesis of this argument is that people only do anthropocentrism answer to avoid the question of race. JMB evidence makes it explicit because anthropocentrism is the unexamined privilege of those oppressed can worry about animals because black people need to survive and eat animals in status quo. The only people who can actually worry about animal rights are the people who have the privilege necessary to avoid the status quo. Even if you have good intentions, you reaffirm racism. But ignore this critical analysis. The Hamakut and Boston 11 says that the human excuse is ignore racism and apply slavery because it's about cultivating more notes, AKK instead of sharing power, which is what racism is all about. It's not just an ad hominem attack because this is about the question of power. It's like the anti-anthropocentrism movement is about the liberal hippies telling the people, other people to shut away. The black people try to discuss their issue of racism or Asians in the status quo. I mean, they're just told to stop eating animals. Now, racism is alternate solvency and net benefits to this. That's why it's pretty hard to move from animal liberation of Catholic Muslim potential for soul independent movements. The representation of white definitely and righteous liberation. So not to understand why Abraham is Peter to understand when you for a black person to be compared to animal. The movement is the white all progressive radical movement for only to the privilege one must possess in order to focus on the animal rights as opposed to surviving oneself in institutional oppression. Animal liberation, but not the really white and middle class. You will not be able to find more sympathy from the focal color. Now, except the argument that there's absolutely no impact debate. The impact debate, the lead evidence facility says that it doesn't turn the case because you have human equality discrimination mode, point to us why discrimination occurs right now. The case turns the alternative that's pushing like seven, no other species, it's capable of making the change necessary for global survival. The paper, environmental status, relations, ruling social relations will only resolve through radical organized human society. Vice and process one that only to the family. The organ class will likely rally behind the role and man of possession and items. All this specifically turns case out. Things about technology and things about the neighbors that don't apply to the myth of the modern research. The reason why it doesn't work is that's cool. The economic condition we're suffering is also not the conditions of the animal. That will the permutation today. We're justified with the permutation because permutation is different sides for different people. That means that our methods can coexist in the status quo. The fairness arguments will impact on that because if we don't get permutation, that means that the negative will just raise the biggest impact, which means that the affirmative will never be able to win because they'll just claim utopian solvency. The writing the animal, we defend our genealogy. The link debate proper. We did not name the wrong system. This is a link over emission, which is the reason why the permutation solved. The action is not trying to rearrange the dictionary. We are not trying to rearrange the dictionary because we're specifically more impression. You link harder to view from nowhere because we are Asian American speak our own identity. You do not know the animal movements. You do not know how to transfer it, which is the reason why this also turns the name of this side. The decolonization this side. Answer the case on because the same style and the question of cellular is the best. The ableist artists you link to this too. Writing animals cannot write, which is much alternative law. The reason why you not performing alternative. Also, you have cross-play all the cards about how we don't link because Freire doesn't assume that dichotomy between animals and humans. He says that humanism is necessary to solve because humanism is necessary to bring down the environmental crisis. The myth of silence also doesn't link to us. If I go to conditional debate, you have messed up the conditional debate. Contradiction is an independent reason to reject their performance because it proves why they are white supremacy. With contradiction, logic, white supremacy. All your arguments about psychotical and testing turn because we want to link somewhere else. All the theory arguments inform that you are a racist theory of negative flexibility advocacy, which is the reason why it's unethical in status quo. Don't air that because this is a question about ethics in status quo. White supremacy uses this to subvert minor groups. The radical movement is key. It's not a defense of contradiction. Just as that we have have different perspectives, but you can still have different perspectives without contradicting yourself.
Alright, we have 135. What was the second part you read?
Bush.
And lines. Pushing lines on.
I accidentally closed all my internet windows. Reopened Facebook and Reddit.
Wow.
And that's a lot of work.
Wow. It's a hard life.
It's an important thing.
Do you think the roll about? Where was that? Somewhere on case. Case. Alright. So I'm gonna do. I'll do Chow Anthro case. Or sorry, Chow case Anthro.
I really just want chow points.
Alright, I guess Condo.
For jokes about chow.
You know what? I'll do Condo right before Anthro. That's.
Chow, case, condo, anthro.
Yes.
Get it, got it.
Stand thingy.
Itty bitty body.
How do I do this? I push that. Yeah.
I assume this is your side, Jack. Is it both of you?
Alright, when are we good?
That's like such a photographer.
Alright, everybody all set?
Yeah, buddy.
I am not going for the balance. However, if the judge isn't educated, then you should vote for the best methodology in order to combat oppression. That will explain more on the role of the balance. Make the case that they cannot win out there. There is no contradiction between the talking Yang evidence because the talking Yang evidence indicates that you should. We did not read an alternative to that piece of evidence. Also indicates that you should not use the process. You should not use the process of decolonization evidence, which is entirely consistent. I actually cited talking Yang on the link to it, which he didn't answer. They said that even if now they can see that we are controlling the root cause for why the myth was created in the first place, which means that the impact of the stolen myths is even if the myth still exists in some form, the process of getting rid of the myth allows for it to reappropriate itself in more mundane ways, and there's also a risk that we get rid of the myth without psychological bias. In fact, we will outweigh. We'll explain later there. Now go to the conditionality argument. You can see the defense for FC are not contradictory. Chow gives in the context of other who can speak for themselves in academic form, which they conclude that the animal, however, the animal cannot was proof that there was no there's no internal link. There's no internal link. There's also can see it is a sequencing question, i.e., if they prove that if they have proven that it is good to actually talk about oppression in an academic form. However, it's a question of what oppression they talk about, which is our argument about genealogies, which means that is a question not and even this question not a reason, not a contradiction. He should not get due analysis on this in the 2 ER because this was never because he did not explain the contradiction for what he just impacted it. Now we can see that comparative analysis actually internally in terms of revolutionary politics turns their white supremacy impact because we actually I'm not going to strike that. Even if they went for contradiction, prove how it actually prove how our contradiction is actually embodiment of a specific embodiment of white supremacy, not a specific ad hoc. They've also can see that their method of kicking out of positions is the same kind of fluid methodology. And if I went to the permutation is some level of severance, that's the same kind of thing, which proves that they cannot necessarily go for that. Anything else, Major? Oh, our parallel evidence indicates that affirmation of multiple perspectives. The affirmation of multiple perspectives is a good model for actually the performative pedagogy way, which is accessible to certain different kinds of bodies, which means that our evidence that I probably go to there's an internal link to his argument. Andrew. There is not nearly enough impact focus on all of our Turing's case analysis, which is what I'm basically going to go for. But any of this argument proves our link card because the process, they can see the framework of this thing should be the one she should have as a genealogy. If we prove, if we win any of our Turing's case analysis, then that means the genealogy of the 1EC was fault. Now the proofs of the genealogy of the 1EC was fault. Now the role of that is to move towards a political space. Our color evidence indicates that this is more accessible for them because it accesses multiple modalities of oppression. Their particular modalities do not account for the non-human. Other he has not explained how that process is. However, I have explained how they can have a new political space might also include certain minority populations and how they are disregarded from politics as well as the debate space. Now that's the filter through. Now the impact office is how you filter the debate because they have conceded that if I win the impact office debate, then the 1EC just results in further oppression in more mundane ways. Now the eating example there, sharks eat everything example doesn't. Is not defense for them because there's a question of how we are ethical beings within an academic form, and that's just like an inevitability claim. And it's also not what the alternative is. The alternative is not valuable vegetarianism, rather the understanding that the ethics of anthropocentrism is the most foundational hierarchy. They consider a piece of public evidence which indicates that it is a process of social death. Only humans can die, but animals merely perish to unmarked graves. This is a distinction which means that they cannot win any of their internal links. The very possibility of racism was made by the hierarchicalization of human versus animal. I made several arguments in the context of the affirmative. First is that the first argument is that the first time is that the pejorative nickname given to the Korean immigrants that he was that their genomics talked about was named after a process was named after ropes and other technologies of capture or best evidence which drive by the process of manifestation. The second reason is that the labor of the Banalas was only possible because of the subjugation of nature, which is because it was the process of farming which created that which was a conceit. And third is that the process of transportation of Korean slaves as well as African slaves was only possible by the transportation of animals as well as the armies by Korean subjects professionally foreign is only made possible because they were deemed non-human in the Korean War, which is conceded argument. Now I think that means to try to the alternative, which their only offense against is that it is white supremacy. You can see that that we are not the traditional white activists because we have recognized our position now as white subjects. However, you disregard the unique space of privilege that you have included as being a human subject in this round, a speaking subject in this round. I'm only going to go for the permutation argument. He has conceded that it relies on the understanding of cost-benefit analysis, which is a reason to reject the team because it reifies hegemonic models of debate, which is actually worse for minority population. Now, the only link I need to go for is the genealogical exposition of the 1EC. Was a bad thing. He has conceded that the silence of the 1EC on the animal is the presence of the 1EC of anthropocentrism, which means that any link argument when they dissent to that argument, their best, they can see the link to the coalition evidence. The wise evidence, our evidence indicates that the process by which anthropocentrism leads to more coalition because it recognizes that there's one form of human domination.
We have 5:45.
BG, you now want to send me the 1C, 2NC? Just send me all the speech I can tell. Great.
What's your email?
We're just going to write all of our emails down.
Okay. All of you in one.
very simple puzzle.
Yeah, no. Thank you. Doing a great job.
Every time I tell someone, like, what? It's like, no, it makes sense.
Do you know what?
Come on, Mickey. I'm like, it's just, you know, I got it, my name going backwards and forwards.
I was just a man,
Mine's not names. Just, you know, mirror of my business, you know. Thanksgiving, tell my purpose, come on, Mickey.
That's cool.
My name is so phonetically do forwards, backwards or forwards.
Alright, calm it down.
I was just gonna start.
Nick, is it just inferior enough
Yeah.
for that document or anything?
You know, it does not matter if you put docs in Gmail.
Yeah, it
Really?
does.
It's not, you can put a doc in every letter or none letters and it's.
But you can use it to filter your email,
That's true.
which is kind of cool.
No.
Should be sent out.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you. Thank you.
You've seen Jiro turning into sushi, right? That is the thing that made me start trying sushi. I'm pretty skeptical. You know,
Unfortunately, it's not all Jira, right?
Yeah. I mean, I like sushi.
What was the very, very last argument you made on the presentation?
The,
Lincoln to coalition.
yeah, the fact that like one high, like if we understand there's one hierarchy that created everything and that, yeah, that was the article I ended to see, right under the alt explanation.
Okay, but that's what, just to take about a minute. But I suggest you start with. Coalition thing.
This is it.
Okay.
Want it bigger? You can do that.
guess Chow. Where?
Case, Chow, and Pro.
Just Chow and Condo.
Cool.
Chow is just like your ruled about it. Oh, okay.
We're gonna start with permutation theory.
Yeah. Oh my god.
What's happening?
Case, Chow, and Pro. Don't worry about anything else.
Okay. Everyone ready?
There's a but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Once again, you have dropped the entirety of the case. First, impact psychological violence against Asian American. We are always swept under the invisible benefits themselves and welfare, education, health, and just reify what supremacy. The second impact is resentment. This is reverse policy definite to your alternative because of the resentment between minority groups that they cannot focus on the animal protest. You cannot bring in the animal to debate when there's race wars going on in the status quo. Now you have to continue that you should prefer proximate cause versus their overarching cause. He has not done any specific analysis why the myth of the minority exists because of animal protectionism. You now have to know that one of the process of conscientization gave me a world and epistemology growth is able to 100% resolve psychological violence resolve the myth of the model minority, which you should prefer now. It does not turn the myth of the model minority because if animal protection and domination of animals looking at animal under us, why do some white supremacists look at Asians all higher and they dump them as a super minority? Why are Asian Americans always looking at hardworking intelligence? That does not explain if we're trying to dominate animal life. Asian Americans are always idolized, which perpetuates the white supremacist status quo that the hierarchy of oppression is flipped in the case of the Asian Americans. That these stereotypes we are trying to break down, which means that the animal protectionism cannot turn out the Chow arguments roll about. Yes, you are educated, but you are taking epistemology to alternative, which he does not do any of the epistemology, especially because it does not go through a process of conscientization that me and Michael can learn about our Asian experience and learn from that. Also, he made another role developed on the answer flow, which I'm going to get to now. First, it's the permutation debate. The permutation has different strategies for different people. It means that if we win our methods to coexist, that proves that an act valid. This is super problematic because the only link that really extended science that our genealogy didn't present the animal. Obviously, a method to conscientize and right for the animals in a political and possible and resolves this question. Another thing is that they have drawn that all in apple evidence that explicitly says that Fourier thinks humans are part of the world, not separate, and that the method of conscientization is not inconsistent with that. They say hegemonic forms of knowledge production, but we implicitly answer that fairness argument that people will just wait for the biggest impact, aka why what they are doing right now proves that they will just try to make these overarching root claims and say, oh, you don't get a permutation because that's a hegemonic form, and that the affirmative methodology is never test I will concede the conditionality flow that we must be compared advocates for change. If we are not allowed the permutation and undermine the potential for class that traces that we don't think it lives to its coalition argument. We say that the investment can coexist, not that one should be prioritized and grafted onto our strategy. Also, if it's a legal omission, that means that this is not a method of coalition and that process of conscientization can still be used. Also, we are not kicking out any parts of that. We are still advocates of the one method and presentation. We are not contradictory. You have also conceded that Fourier conscientization is probably a prerequisite. If there's a system where we dominate animals right now, it's probably a good idea to learn about that, epistemology grow about it, and question our anthropogenic sector, which means the permutation is probably the best option in debate. Now, the second question is how the alternative is able to solve for anything. Go back to the top. The one wants a process in itself. The genealogy doesn't matter because it's a constant clarification of who we are in our identity, the role of the ballot. He says to move to political space, which is inherently contradictory with the alternative because animals are not in this political space right now, which is his policy. His twin, as you can see, he said the one needs to cause more oppression. No, it doesn't. We don't cause more oppression by admitting animals. It means that we are talking from our location, from our identity, also process of conscientization. Also, that also on the permutation debate, he has conceded the shark analysis was not about this example. It just proves that if sharks eat other sharks, why don't sharks oppress another shark in its own species? That proves that the humans are specifically different from the other animal kingdoms that and just because of dominations of other species cannot explain the domination of intra-species relation that's going in the stats quo, which means that it cannot prove the ethical arguments done on play because the shark evidence just proves that it does not turn case. The alternative is does not solve for anything. It's just another form of white liberal hippieism where they just try to evade the question on racism, being like, oh yeah, we talk about animalism and for perception, so we try to break down animalism, but then it ignores and shifts the discussion away, the racial discussion, and makes sure that they never saw this has this our white part says that any blacks are never included in the movement, that blacks are always going to be viewed as socially dead, which means that alternative cannot solve for anything because now the racism, the root cause debate, if racism is exclusionary, why does white supremacy now not include the model minority? These three arguments he has made is not contextualized to the model minority. The first argument, we were named after Hennepin plantation were named after that makes sense in the context why Asian Americans are superior, right? Now the labor lily with the how we try to dominate nature does not matter because the alternative does not solve for agriculture or domination of other things. Also, you have to see the evidence that human institutions are built not built upon an animal, but the domination of other humans, which means that human animals cannot solve. Yeah.
Into the social death line.
The social death argument does not animals because animals are socially, even if animals are socially dead right now, the blacks are socially dead right now. Also, we solve for this through a process of conscientization and the permutation should be resolved. He also says that slavery allowed the transportation of animal, allowed this transportation of animal. The alternate does not resolve any of the permutation problem. He says try to for the alternate. If the alternate is racist and it excludes black people, then how does the alternate solve for these types of oppression? You have conceded that you are a view from nowhere, that you do not use the animals perspective, and you will commodify it. That means you are the traditional white activist, that you will only commodify the white animals in perspective, and that you alternate does not solve for anything.
Make it clear.
Good debate.
Yeah.